Let's get into story number 2 here. It says Putin warns Western troops in Ukraine would be legitimate targets as 26 nations signal ceasefire force. On this one, I pulled by factuality, and I pulled the highest leaning factuality. It says France 24. So I believe that this article was translated from French. So if it sounds a little bit weird when I'm reading it, sometimes when you get news articles that are translated, it's a little bit a little bit junky, a little bit wonky, but you've got pretty equal leaning distribution at 43% center, 35% left, 23% right. So it's not a huge blind spot or anything like that. It says 91% of the sources are high factuality or higher, with only 8% of the sources being owned by independent news. But news is big business, so it's kind of something that you have to you kind of have to expect in this game. So 24 countries led by France and Britain pledged Thursday to join a reassurance force on land, at sea, and in the air to patrol any agreement to end the war unleashed by Russia's February 2022 invasion. Tens of thousands have been killed in the 3.5 years of fighting, which have forced millions from their homes and destroyed much of the eastern and southern Ukraine in Europeans' bloodiest conflict since World War II. Kiev says security guarantees backed by Western troops are crucial to any peace deal in order to ensure Russia does not reinvade in the future. If some troops appear there, especially now during the fighting, we proceed from the premises that they will be... We proceed from the premise that they will be legitimate targets, Putin said at the economic forum in the far eastern city of Vladivostok. He added that the deployment of such a force was not conducive to long-term peace and said that Ukraine's closer military ties with the West were one of what he calls the root causes of the conflict. Ukrainian allies have not revealed any specific details of the plan, including how many troops it would involve and how specific countries would contribute. Zelensky said Friday that there was an agreement for thousands of troops, but did not give a specific figure. It will definitely not be single digits, but in the thousands, and that is a fact. But it is a little too early to talk about it, he said during the press conference with the European Council President Antonio Costa in western Ukraine. In Kiev, Foreign Ministry spokesman Gregory Tiecki slammed Putin's rejection of the deployment. He is not one to decide. Putin has made the mistake by deciding that he can place his troops across the border in Ukraine, and now it's none of his business whom Ukraine invites into its territory to protect its security, he said at a briefing in response to the question by AFP. French President Emmanuel Macron said Thursday 26 countries had formally committed, some others had not yet taken a position, to deploy as a reassurance force troops in Ukraine or be present on the ground, in the sea, or the air. The troops would not be deployed on the front lines, Macron said, but there would be a bid to prevent any new major aggression. Despite the West and Ukraine advancing preparations for a possible peacekeeping force, there are few signs that Kiev and Moscow are close to striking a deal. Multiple rounds of diplomacy have failed to yield anything more than prisoner exchanges. Moscow is calling for Ukraine to cede even more territory and wants international recognition of regions captured and occupied by its forces as part of Russia. Kiev has ruled the demands as old ultimatums. Putin said Friday that if a deal could be struck, there was no need for troops. Ukraine said many leaders in Europe have accused Putin of paying only lip service to the idea of halting his offenses, trying to play for time and keep U.S. President Donald Trump engaged while his troops capture more territory. The Kremlin leader earlier this week said his troops were advancing across the entire front line and that he would continue to fight if a peace deal was not reached. So that's not foreboding at all. Hey, thanks for checking out this video from Nightly News this morning. If you wouldn't mind, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video or when we go live on Tuesdays and Fridays.